Hey Memphis, this is Best in Blue. This show is just like it sounds. We're talking to the best and brightest in the Memphis Police Department. In each episode, we do a deep dive into the various jobs within the department, and more importantly, we do a deep dive into the lives of the very human men and women behind the badge. And now, here's your host, Candace Gray.
Hello again, and welcome back to Best in Blue. You will not believe what we have in store for today. We have both chiefs here today, Chief CJ Davis and Assistant Chief Shawn Jones. And I just want to throw out a small factoid. Among those two, we have about 74 years of police experience in various, areas. Oh my gosh, it's about to go down. What are we talking about with all this big boss energy today? We are talking about contemporary issues in policing. What are these guys thinking about? The big picture strategy, day-to-day tactics, and what are the pressing issues? We will find out all of this and more when we come back after the break. You're listening to Best in Blue.
Hey, I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Brack. And Grindset takes a deep dive into the mentality of the entrepreneur in Memphis.
This show unpacks the entrepreneurial journey. What's your Grindset?
So make sure to check us out on your favorite podcast provider.
Grindset on the Kazookian Network.
You're listening to Best in Blue, presented by the Memphis Police Department and empowered by Kazookian. Welcome back. So we have got the two chiefs here today, and they are going to spill the tea. So I want to know, as MPD's top leadership, what are the biggest issues on your plate right now? What are your priorities? What are we trying to get done right now?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Chief Jones. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
By the way,
welcome back.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Well, I think Chief Jones and I probably would agree that not just in the city of Memphis, but around the country, there has been such an uptick in crime, various types of criminal activity, and I think what is daunting about it all is that much of it is perpetrated by our young people. And so the heart in us is, how do we save our young people? And the heart in us is always, how do we keep our officers safe? How do we keep our community safe?
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of challenges right now.
Yeah, also, I think just moving the police department into the future, the world and everything continually evolves, and we have to evolve with it. You don't want to get left behind. Right. Technology is one of those things. When we first started, technology wasn't, that prevalent, but now it's very prevalent in terms of, what police departments doing just to solve crime and to fight crime. So just moving us into the future, keeping us connected with the public and stuff, that's a challenge as well.
Sure.
Yeah, gonna go.
And in the beginning, or I won't say the beginning, y'all weren't around in the beginning, but back in the day, there weren't even body cams, right?
That's right.
What did they use back then to
we're sort of dating ourselves now.
Yeah, that
because we didn't know we were going to have to date that whole 74 years. That's a lot of experience, though, when you really think about it.
You guys have seen a lot.
We have. And fortunately, both of us cut our teeth in a department that was sort of ahead as it relates to cutting edge technology. But when we both began in this industry, technology wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Just think about it. There were no cell phones.
Right.
Radio systems were sort of siloed. Now we have interoperability where agencies can talk to each other. And, and at times you literally had to go to a phone booth, that sounds antiquated.
Wow.
To have a real conversation about what was going on the street with a boss or whoever. And they call you on the radio. Can you give me a call when you stop? So you stop at a gas station somewhere.
That was
quarter or dime.
Yeah, that was until you got the beeper.
Yeah.
Then you get the beep.
Yeah, then we got the beepers.
Then you got the
you got that beep on your waistline. Oh, my beeper. And then we kind of went to
a text thing.
Yeah, we went to Blackberries.
Yeah.
And Blackberries is really
two ways. The little two ways.
Two-way texting here and there. We thought we were doing something with Blackberries.
Yeah.
So technology has come a long way.
Sure.
And in this industry, you really have to be on top of, emerging technology. So crime was different.
Right.
You very seldom responded to shootings. Very seldom 30 years ago did you respond to a shooting call.
And so you're saying there were less shootings back then?
Absolutely.
There were less shootings.
Wow.
No,
Yes.
quite naturally though, what happened, I think in the late 80s when crack came on the scene, you would have those drug-related shootings on the corner. But that kind of ebbed and flowed in Atlanta during that particular time.
Okay.
Then we went from a high back to a low. When we left, it had gone back to a low.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Memphis was the same. In certain communities, open air drug sales were prevalent. Back in the day, crack just really did a bad, just was devastating in African American minority communities. And then, of course, as technology emerged for police, it also emerged for those individuals selling drugs. You don't see people on street corners like you had before. They're more sophisticated in the manner in which they transfer drugs throughout the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think back, there's an idea that, things used to be probably a little more pure, like, trying to, get a crime solved might have been a little easier.
Yeah.
Right.
How has that, how does that apply to today?
So I'd say probably one difference is that I think the police knew the members of the community. The community members also knew each other.
Sure.
But now we move to a different state where we're so busy, we're really not getting that opportunity to really learn the people that we work for in the city. And the neighbors don't know each other a lot of cases. So I'm saying, so solving crimes makes it difficult. A lot of what we do in terms of solving crimes is based on the individuals in the community providing us with information.
Right.
And
I think Chief Jones really hit when he said the community members that we work for. That's key. And we remind our officers on a regular basis that our citizens are our customers.
That's right.
And that we work for them and that what we deliver is on behalf of the community that we serve. So the relationships are important. Back in the day, I remember my brothers got in trouble. They went up the street. Some of our neighbors were out of town and my brothers and their friends decided they were going to jump over the fence and get in their pool. And, these are 14 and 15-year-olds that were just really wanting to have a good time. But today that would be considered a burglary. And so when the police responded, the police gathered them up, put them all in the back of patrol cars, and they brought them home. So the difference in the manner in which the police deal with certain types of situations have changed. And it shouldn't be that we're so busy trying to increase our numbers and our stats with arrests.
Right.
It's how do we improve the conditions in our community and not ruin the lives of young people.
Right.
If it weren't for that, my brothers, they may not have been, one of them is a registered nurse and has a wonderful career. And the other brother is a retired colonel in the military.
Wow.
But just one brush with the law sometimes can completely change the trajectory of our young people.
Yeah. So one of the differences I think then as versus now is that, again, the community knew everybody in the community. Like when I grew up, everybody knew me. I don't care how far I went. Everybody knew me. They knew my parents. So I couldn't do anything wrong. Again, the way the communities are constructed today, that doesn't exist in that same manner.
Right.
So kids
The
are doing
village is
things
different.
right.
The village
It's
is
different.
very different. The community members are sort of, they're in their silos.
Yeah.
Right.
It's none of your business. And,
Right.
they.
Yeah. So that would be a prime case of, without realizing, the police and the community working together, because the people in the community were just as concerned about the community as the police who were, doing the day-to-day patrols and stuff in the community. Don't do that. Young man, don't do that. I'm going to tell your mother. So you don't have that now. So the kids and people just doing whatever because they
And that's
nobody's watching.
That's a basic analogy of how communities police themselves.
Right.
You know, if I was down the street, you know, my mother and father, they knew everybody on the street. My father was neighborhood president, you know, so we couldn't get away with anything without a neighbor. Not only could my neighbor, you know, grab my arm or spank me and get away with that, I'd get another spanking when I got home.
You got home,
you know?
exactly.
Right.
But that was a way of nurturing community and taking care of each other and being concerned about, you know, being our brother's keeper, so to speak.
You know, when you mention Chief technology, it seems like, you know, it's very helpful in one way, but thinking about the silos, I often wonder if technology is what's kind of pulling us inward and not really cultivating that community.
It's a double-edged sword. We even see it in law enforcement. Our officers are grown up in an environment of technology, of texting and not communicating. We were forced to communicate. And so, you know, we don't struggle to be able to have conversations. But our officers, they grew up in the world of technology, and sometimes they struggle even talking to each other while they're sitting in a patrol car together.
My goodness.
You know,
You know, just going outside, playing with one another helps to build that social piece right there. But, you know, now kids, they can stay home by themselves and play video games. So we miss that. So we have to, when they come through our academy, we have to try to teach them how to communicate.
Sure.
Because they're going to have to communicate with the members of the public. So it's breaking that barrier and teaching them a new skill. And sometimes that can be difficult based on the, you know, the era, but we have to find ways to do that because, you know, we're dealing with people.
Yeah. Well, and you guys are then dealing with people who come from all different, you know, age levels, backgrounds.
Right. That's correct.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, we are almost out of time for this first segment, but I do want to ask a question that you can answer when we come back. Okay. I want to know, what is the thing that keeps you up at night? And I may have asked you this question before, but I'll bet the answer is different this time. So hold on to that, and we will be right back. You're listening to Best in Blue, presented by the Memphis Police Department and empowered by Kazuki. And we will be right back with Chief Davis and Chief Jones.
Riffin' on Jazz.
Dizzy Gillespie. Can you imagine one of your first gigs being with Dizzy?
What a stop.
Riffin' on Jazz on the Kazukian Network. Kazukian!
Welcome back. You are listening to Best in Blue, and we definitely have the Best in Blue here today. Chief Davis and AC Jones. I want to know, and not just I, but all the people in Memphis, we want to know, what is the thing right now that's keeping you guys up at night?
So I would say what keeps me up at night, and this may not even be from a police chief perspective sometimes, you know, I find myself very concerned about root causes, you know, in our community. You know, what are the root causes? Because it directly impacts, you know, our response to various types of incidents. But we just can't ever just really isolate the incident without thinking about what caused this to happen. And how do we galvanize and work with other entities to address root causes? And it's not just here, it's everywhere. And some of these root causes of crime and juvenile delinquency and all of that, you know, that manifests itself in minority communities, it sometimes it's ignored. You know, it's not addressed until it hits the wrong, you know, neighborhood sometimes. And I, you know, if I can be free to say that, and until we invest more, you know, people talk about law enforcement, that we invest too much money in law enforcement. I would have to agree. But until we start gradually investing in root causes, we're going to have to keep investing in the response piece, you know, until we gradually, you know, find a way to balance it out. You know, it can't be that you just turn the switch off and defund the police because every day, if you're watching our news, we have to keep responding to try to protect and save community members.
Yes.
But I agree wholeheartedly that we need to start addressing root causes, everything from poverty to mental illness to truancy. You know, there's some very key elements that contribute. You know, they call it ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that contribute towards, you know, problems in our community.
So whatever keeps the chief up keeps me up.
Right.
Naturally.
Of course.
He's a great assistant chief. He knows what to say.
Yeah, but in actuality, you know, of course, I get a lot of homicide calls at night, you know, throughout the night. And, you know, so I actually wake up for that. So in actuality, you know, but again, it's still
you're literally losing sleep at night.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it's going to go back to the root
when
causes.
He gets the call, I get the call.
Right.
You know, he calls me and, you know, every time, you know, your heart just sinks.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about the reasons of, you know, some of the violence. It's really nonsense sometimes. Sometimes it's just, you know, one person got mad at the other person at a bar or some type of domestic situation. It's not always, you know, intimate partners or anything. Sometimes it's children against a parent, you know, and those kinds of instances, it just, you know, makes us realize that there's work to do as it relates to the different types of challenges that affect minority communities.
And really just aside from, you know, arresting people, which is, you know, part of our job, you know, trying to figure out what can we do additionally without having to resort to that to move the members of the community to a better place. You know, we can do some other positive things, I think, from assisting with education. We talk about, you know, developing a payout program, things of that nature, Girl Scouts. What can we do to help the kids not move into that life of crime so that we don't have to be up at night? You know, keeping people.
And that's what some of the budget is going towards, right?
Yeah, keeping
community
people,
relations.
out of the system from the beginning.
Right.
Never going into the system.
Right.
Then intervening with those in the system to try to get them out of the system. How do we do that?
Right.
You know,
and see, we don't celebrate arrests.
Right.
That's not time to, that's nothing that we celebrate. We celebrate when we have fewer incidents. That's when we feel like we're making progress, when we have fewer incidents, when we have safer drivers, when we have fewer incidents where we have fatalities on our roads, we have fewer incidents where someone might make a comment, well, it looks like the police department didn't write as many tickets this year. It's not because we don't want to write tickets. It's because people are starting to calm and we're calming the traffic. Right. And there has not been as much of a reason to write tickets. So we have to really look at, you know, our work from a holistic standpoint.
Do you think that, obviously, you guys know you can make a difference, right?
Yeah.
But is there one specific area in which you feel like you guys can really move the needle?
I would say it would have to be addressing youth issues, our youth in our community, because, you know, by far statistics show that a lot of the various types of problems exist with our young people. Right. And kids, you know, are not born into this world criminals. No. And so, you know, whatever we can do to be more proactive and preventive on that front, we plan to do that. And so we're trying to train our officers not just to respond to various types of crime situations, but to also be an extension to the community as mentors, as, you know, support, as advisors, educators, to various wraparound services that are available, and look at how do we inform that victim and sometimes even that suspect about what is it going to take for me not to have to see you in handcuffs again? Right.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to double down on our commitment to our PAL and our youth services program. We're going to expand that. You know, we should begin some additional funds to be able to make sure that we can put the programmatic stuff in place to help those kids, but not just those kids, also their family members, you know, the adult family members as well. Because if you touch one, you got to touch the other to move them out of that space, to put them in a new space and give them some opportunities, exposures, and things of that nature to, you know, to move their life in a different different direction.
It's so interesting that you guys are doing this type of work. You know, you would think that, a nonprofit should be doing this, or maybe even other government entities, pulling this together. It makes me think of another question. What are some misconceptions of the police department? Because I think I'll bet you somebody listening to this right now never knew that you guys were behind these programs.
Oh, yeah.
So what other misconceptions about policing or leadership, would you like to clear up and say, hey, let's set the record straight on this?
Well, I would say that, some misconceptions is that, police officers are kind of robotic. They
They're
are
not
trained.
people, right?
They're not people. And many of our officers are very active in their churches and in their communities. They volunteer at work with various types of initiatives, whether it's, back to school programs, feed the needy. I have about 40 female officers who have agreed to volunteer and start Girl Scout troops in every last one of our precincts.
Wow.
And these are things that out of the passion outside of the uniform, the person is wanting to give back in the community. But what better way to do it than have the level of influence as a leader in the community and also someone who has a caring and loving heart to be able to demonstrate a different side of who we are. And I tell folks all the time when I'm speaking in the community, this uniform is what I do. It's not who I am as a person.
Right.
Who I am as a person is another member of the community who really cares. And hopefully we can use our positions to better and have a more positive impact in the community.
Yeah. And I think TV does a great injustice to who we really are. Oh my gosh. Right?
Yes.
Talk
about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
So in actuality, we're really what we consider sheepdogs. That means we're looking over the least of these in our community, the vulnerable, the elderly, the kids, and people who just want to live a good life in an area. Our job is to try to maintain, help preserve that, in the community. But we do have a warrior component, but it only comes in when someone comes into that area, that village, to try to violate the peaceful members of the community. You know what I mean? We're kind of villainized for the most part as being the bad guys.
Right.
But actually, we're trying to protect everybody.
And I would say also to that point, we're not a perfect department. There is no perfect police department. There's no perfect organization because there are people who would venture away from the principles and the philosophy of the organization, and just about any organization, whether it's FedEx, Coca-Cola, right. It doesn't matter who you're working for. We always have to address those kind of issues. And we've had challenges in that regard too. But what is important is that we extract problems. It's just like a cancer. If there's a tumor, you extract the tumor so that the whole body can continue to function. You can't allow problems to continue to fester without addressing them. And I think it's important that we share that with our community members, that we want a police department of integrity, one that the community can trust. And for the officers that come to work every day to do the right thing, that work hard every day. This is a hard working police department.
Without a doubt.
Every day.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What is your biggest hope for Memphis?
I think my biggest hope is the same as it was when I first came to Memphis, is that we show not just Memphians, but we show the country that Memphis can be an icon, that Memphis could be a model of how to take a city who may have had a reputation for tough times in the past to take it to another level. And I still believe with the rich history here, with the passionate community members that we see every day, that there is a will to do better. There is a will and, a sense of community that our community members, our business community members, they want to see better and they want to be a part of what that looks like.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think I'd just like to see this city, it's a predominantly African-American city, just being one of the best cities in America. I know we can do it. It's a lot of work that it takes to be able to get us to that particular point, right? Yeah. But if we focus on those steps, we can do that and prove to the nation that we could be a model of a city for others to follow.
Absolutely.
And that's dealing with your youth all the way up to your adults.
Yeah.
Providing opportunity, just allowing the city to grow and be the best that it can be. So,
and even through adversity, that's when we see our biggest victories.
Mm-hmm.
And life is full of peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And it's when you're in those valleys is where you really start to see where change is needed and where, you can do better. But there's always hope that you're going to end up on a peak. Once again, you just can't give up.
Mm-hmm. I'm so grateful to have you guys here today. And not only that, but to have you guys leading the Memphis Police Department. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do feel like Memphis can be what we all want it to be. And, being a lifelong Memphian, I left for a little while, came back. But when you leave, or if you've lived anywhere else, that we've got the building blocks. Right. We've got the foundation to go to that next level. Yes. We've got smart people, passionate people who care about the community. So thank you guys for uncovering some of that with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, our listeners, for listening to Best in Blue. As always, we appreciate you tuning in to learn more about our police department and the men and women behind the badge. Be sure to like us and follow us across all of our social media platforms and listen to the show wherever you stream your podcasts. We're at Best in Blue MPD on IG and Best in Blue on Facebook. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
This is Memphis Police Chief CJ Davis encouraging you to join our Best in Blue. Our requirements are achievable, our standards are the highest, and our officers are the finest. Check out opportunities to join our police department at joinmpd.com.